Protect your cognitive vitality by learning how to avoid risks. We know that right now there is no guaranteed way to avoid cognitive decline in later life. If this is the case, then what do doctors and scientists mean when they talk about dementia prevention? What they are actually referring to is the concept of risk reduction. The risk of developing any disease depends on a combination of genetic and environmental factors. We inherit a unique combination of genes from our biological parents, such that our bodies look and function slightly different from anyone else. Some of these differences can make us more or less likely to develop a particular condition. For example, small changes in the way cells repair damage can make it more likely someone will develop cancer. Differences in our environment can also make us more or less likely to develop certain conditions. For example, smoking can greatly increase the chance of getting lung cancer. Unlike our genes, we have some degree of control over our environment, so environmental risk factors are considered to be modifiable. The concept of risk reduction, then, involves taking steps to reduce our exposure to environmental factors that have been shown to increase the likelihood of developing a certain condition. As of 2024, the Lancet Commission has identified 14 modifiable risk factors for dementia. This research suggests that up to 45% of dementia cases in the population could have been prevented if exposure to all of these risk factors were eliminated. But it is important to understand that the degree of risk reduction associated with addressing each of these factors refers to the whole population rather than an individual. It does not mean that a given individual's risk would be reduced by the same amount if he or she addressed these risk factors. The contribution of genetic versus environmental risk factors is different for every person. One person could avoid exposure to all the modifiable factors, but still be at higher risk for dementia than another person who only addresses some of the modifiable factors because of differences in genetic risk. But mitigating these modifiable risk factors is beneficial, no matter one's level of genetic risk. Because the risk attributed to each of these factors is not stable throughout the lifespan, the Commission also points out the stage of life when exposure to each factor contributes the greatest risk. Notably, the majority of these modifiable factors pose the greatest risk during middle age. These include hearing loss, high cholesterol, depression, traumatic brain injury, lack of physical activity, diabetes, smoking, high blood pressure, obesity, and excessive alcohol consumption. This is consistent with the discovery that the brain starts changing and accumulating damage decades before the onset of symptomatic cognitive decline. Therefore, to get the full benefits of a risk reduction strategy, it is essential to start early. For more information on dementia risk reduction strategies, visit cognitivevitality.org.